Okay, is that working?
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, what our student group is demanding from the university is that they commit to full divestment from fossil fuels by 2025, as well as that they commit to taking recent tangible action to oppose the Trans Mountain Pipeline and prepare and educate the campus community on the severe fire safety risk that is presented by the project and is only being amplified by the installation of the new expanded petro tank facility that's being built on the mountain. The most recent action that SFU has taken to oppose the project was in 2016. And so we'd like to see more recent action to denounce the project and also demand that Trans Mountain release the public safety plans that they have, because currently they have not made those publicly available, and that really hinders the city's ability to bolster any safety plans that are in place. And as climate change continues to wreak havoc in BC, it's sort of creating an even greater danger on the mountain as the forests dry up, and with any sort of an earthquake or a spill that causes a fire, it would sort of light the mountain up like a candle in a sense, and block the one route leaving the mountain, and leave many people either stranded on the mountain and also be quite affected by the amount of air pollution that would be generated by such a fire as well. And so there are students, faculty, staff, as well as just residents of the university area who are very concerned about this safety risk. So those are our two demands that we're asking through this hunger strike campaign.
Can I just maybe ask you to reframe the second one again, Jaden? Because I heard a couple things, and I think it's pertinent to the discussion. Certainly, I heard the issue around safety and the concerns around that, which I think the university we believe we've been active on, but perhaps there's different perceptions. But it also sounded like just a general stopping the pipeline conversation, which is a little bit different as well. Is it the safety issue that you're concerned about, or?
Yes, it's the safety issue that's posed by the project, especially the installation of the new tank farm that's being built on the mountain. So yeah, we ask that that the safety plan be properly addressed, and that the public be educated on what measures are in place, as well as that you demand that Trans Mountain publicly release their safety plan as well.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and I'm certainly sympathetic to both of those concerns for sure. And Mark can speak more about the safety plans from Trans Mountain and what they're legally required to do, and what they've done to date as well. I thought I saw another hand go up too. Was there further comment on that? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think just to frame this conversation in a proper context, I think we need to recognize that for the past 30 years, we've been using euphemisms to address the climate emergency. And in order to actually deal with this, we need to start talking about it in a truthful manner. And talking about it in a truthful manner involves us to recognize that it's an extermination event, because for the past 30 years, the governments of the world have known about it, and we've been continuing to put a poisonous gas in the atmosphere. So it's about, like, divestment and investment in fossil fuels are all euphemisms for being complicit in this extermination project. So I think we need to just put that into context. And I think in terms of the tank farm, it's also about not using euphemisms in terms of educating the public, because it's about telling the public that the risks involved involve death, right? If there is something that goes wrong, people could die. And telling the truth about it that's really one of our demands about the tank farm. And it's full divestment by 2025 or sooner, I think. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. And thanks for the extra voice as well. Anything else before I sort of open up and talk about where we're going and some of the work we have underway? People wish to add or concerns?
I might just add a little bit of a note about just the urgency that we feel when it comes to this campaign. I mean, like according to the most recent IPCC report, for example, a 1.5 degree increase in global average temperatures is expected in just the next decade. As you likely know, this 1.5 degree increase is the internationally agreed upon threshold after which climate impacts become significantly more frequent and intense, and the adaptability and mitigation strategies become significantly less feasible. And so by the end of the century, this is expected to be a 4 degree increase in global average temperatures. When our children, for example, will be in their late 60s and our grandchildren will be around our age. And looking around at the students at SFU, for example, not a single person born within the last 30 years has experienced a below average year for global temperatures. So that's the vast majority of us. So we students tend to understand, all too well that our time to act on this issue is so limited. We're told that, yeah, when we get our degrees and we get our dream jobs, we'll actually be able to make a difference, that we want to see in terms of mitigating the climate crisis. But for many of us, that simply will be too late. As I mentioned, we only have until the next decade to try to stay below a 1.5 degree increase in global temperatures. And so we should just be able to focus on our studies and dream about what the future holds during our time here. I know for myself, I have a midterm in a couple of hours, for example, and I'd like to just be able to focus on that. But we just simply can't afford that luxury. We can't live and hope for our futures. We're forced to live in terror as students. And we feel that instead of having our paths paved out for us by our university, they're being stripped away by the choices that they're making to fully divest, as well as to not address the severe safety risks that are posed by trans bound. So we see that we have to demand change now, right now, while we're in school, or the degrees that we're working towards won't matter. And so that's why we're here in front of you today. So I just wanted to mention about that, and that we want to see the SFU administrators aligning with our student held values. Thank you.
Well said. I see, Linda, you've got your hand up as well.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add a word of support to that. I see so many, a huge majority of the medical problems that we see in our clinic is related to mental health. And a lot of that is anxiety. And I see every day how this impacts our young people's functioning. Their trouble sleeping, their trouble concentrating.
So I think we lost you a little bit, Linda. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if that's my connection. So I see the impact on their functioning in school in terms of trouble sleeping, difficulty concentrating, loss of appetite, low energy, all of that kind of thing. There was a study released in preprints from the where they surveyed over 10,000 young people around the world in 10 countries. And climate anxiety was shown to have a significant impact on about 2/3 of those young people. And government inaction was also one of the, on this area, was also one of the biggest stressors for them as well. And government can take many forms. It can be the leadership of the smaller communities like SFU, or up to the national government. Sorry for the light there. Let me just shift here. So I think for our youth, in order to be able to help them function better too, we need to see strong action on the part of the leaders, because they're feeling this anxiety and also feeling a sense of powerlessness because they are not feeling and the ability to make the changes themselves, and then are going to this extremes of putting their health and their bodies and their lives on the line. that's just how I see it from my point of view and why I'm willing to help support this cause.
Great, and thank you very much. You broke up a little bit, but I think I caught the gist of your comments, Linda, and certainly the passion behind it. So Bill, I think we want to reach out. We have heard, of course, that there is a hunger strike and a protest planned. I have to say, my personal hope is that people don't self-harm themselves, but certainly speak up with a loud voice and make themselves heard when it comes to climate change, and certainly the challenges around the Trans Mountain Pipeline as well. A couple things. One is, the university on the divestment movement has been working, I would say, in conjunction with SFU 350. As long as I've been associated with the university, which is, coming up on 10 years now, as we've started to move down a path of responsible investing. And, I think that we look at the carbon footprint of our investment portfolios and try and reduce it. And, we've continually done that, certainly over the past 5 years or so, will the targets increase. And, we put a more aggressive, ambitious approach on it. And, I think what I would say is certainly, from a perspective of what we need to do, I think we actually have a pretty common alignment on the end goal. And our investment portfolio has to be something that is not damaging the environment. And, we can debate how we get there. And, certainly at times we have differences of opinion on that. I think one of the things that we've been thinking about as we've been working through it over the last while, we've seen other universities such as the University of Toronto come out with a fairly ambitious program. And we very much want to be the leader. And we don't want to be the second university in Canada. We're very proud of our sustainability lens. We want to be a leader. We believe in climate change, and we want to take action. So I think with respect to the first one, Jaden, around full divestment by 2025, you'll be happy to see a little bit later on this morning, the university is going to announce to do that. And we are going to divest. Now, I think one of the things you have to be mindful of is we do have governance structures in place. We have to work it through our board, but I think certainly when the president goes public and says that we will divest fully from fossil fuels by 2025, that's something that's going to happen, and it's something we're going to work on. So thank you for your advocacy on it. I think it's been a lot of work. Allison and her team have been, I would say, struggling through it for, I would say 6 months at least now, 5 years in total, but 6 months trying to figure out how we can make this happen. And, I think that what we'd say is divestment to us is probably a subset of the overall problem. We want to not only, get rid of fossil fuel stocks, but we want to also get rid of other damaging stocks, which is why we're focused more on the carbon footprint. So the first step, divestment, but we're certainly well aware you guys can look at the carbon footprint of the overall portfolio, and we're going to be having ongoing conversations around that. And but that we see that as good news, and certainly something that's aligned with where you guys want to go. I do actually see my job as partly responding to the stakeholders of SFU. I don't think it's partly is not the right word. I obviously have another lens, which is to make sure we do it in a responsible fashion and a thoughtful approach. But this, SFU is very much a culture of certainly environmental respect, and very much a leader in the environmental world. And we want to not only make the announcements, but we want to follow through with them. And that's what we plan on doing on the divestment front. So you'll see that. That's some good news that will be coming. Allison, do you want to share? I think there was 2 or 3 other pieces of the news as we look forward on what we're planning on announcing.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. We do have an announcement set to go out today, subsequent to this meeting. I'm not sure how aware people are of what we've already done, but I mean, currently our carbon footprint of the public equity portion of the portfolios has been reduced by 60% since the 2016 baseline. And we have made a commitment to net zero carbon emissions for both the endowment and the non-endowment funds by 2050. And you're probably aware that we were a founding member of the Canadian Investment Statement on Climate Change, and one of the first universities, well, the second university actually to sign the UN PRI. And we've also more recently signed the UN Race to Zero pledge. So that will all come out as part of the announcement with the commitment to divest in both the endowed and non-endowed funds fully from fossil fuels by 2025. Thanks. Any questions or
Comments, Tim? Yeah.
Tim?
And I think it's challenging for people who are not economists or following university and corporate finance closely to understand exactly what things mean. And I wonder, so for example, carbon footprint of public equity funds, is there a guide to like the one pager of here are all our investments, here's what this category means, and here are the direct fossil energy investments, and here are the commingled, indirect, very complicated mess of the way the economy is connected kind of investments. It's interesting. I'm so admiring of the students today because they have finally made this jump from, oh, there's a lot of uncertainty about climate change and the health impacts of climate change and whether this is a real emergency or not. We're done with that uncertainty. And so now I think we need to approach it on the financial side to make things crystal clear about what divestment actually means. And so any guide that you could provide on that in a digestible form for a person who doesn't understand finance at all would be really helpful.
Yeah, and I think we can.
Sorry.
I was just
Do
going
you
to say,
want to go ahead, Martin?
yeah, no, sure, certainly, certainly.
I'll clarify.
Yeah, no, I think we can certainly go down that path, Tim. You know, at a very high level, we don't actually have any direct investments in fossil fuels at the moment. It's funny, the only place we have a couple student funds that have a couple of indirect. We don't oversee them; the students do. We've actually asked them to divest. And that will be underway. We have in our, the number goes up in our pooled funds. I think it's about $50 or $60 million worth of fossil fuel companies in pooled funds. And as you can appreciate, the investment managers, as they make decisions going forward, will bring that number up or down. It's actually a very small percentage, and it's dropped pretty rapidly over the last while. But the last $50 million is the piece that we're going to get rid of by 2025.
Yeah, the CS and Beam funds have committed over the weekend to divest from all fossil fuels in their funds by 2022. I just got that over the weekend. So yeah, and we do have the 60 million is out of 1.2 billion in investments, to be clear. So it's 5% at this point, or the 60 million of our funds, and that's what we will be divesting from. Those are fossil fuel funds, and all of our funds are pooled funds. The student funds are the only direct investments. Yeah.
Thank you, Elsa. And certainly we can put that to writing if it's helpful too, just so people have it. You know, I think one of the reasons why we want to have
it's just a guide. Yes.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this conversation, and I don't mean to get into the details of it all, but that something that we can hand to students and that it just explains it very clearly. Because, for example, I didn't know that about the student funds, and it's very interesting to learn that. And if I had any understanding of how the whole thing worked, I might have, might have been onto that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, I think part of it, one of the reasons I wanted to reach out and have the conversation with you is I find at times we actually do, like I say, we have the same goals, but we're misunderstanding where we're going. And, you know, the plan, you know, the thinking's actually not badly aligned. Sometimes we want to go about it different ways, but, you know, there's remarkable levels of consistency in some of these things, you know, in my view anyway. The other piece that was raised was the pipeline, and you know, I guess a couple of comments. We hear your frustrations and probably share your frustrations on the pipeline. Mark will speak to it, but releasing safety plans from Trans Mountain, yeah, that would be good. They have a legal obligation, which is not the best, and from what we're seeing, they're going to basically go down the path of their legal obligation as opposed to giving us advance notice on it. We also, I think strongly are working with the city of Burnaby. At the end of the day, our university is in the city of Burnaby, and we look to them for protection services, and that's a key place. We're working with them to put a fire hall up on Burnaby Mountain, and certainly working with them through planning exercises. And I know that Mark, they've reached out to us on a couple of other files too. But just to say that we're concerned, I think would be an understatement. We're very concerned about that. The president and I think the university have been fairly consistent. Jaden, I'd be interested in seeing the 2016 documentation where we opposed it, and we haven't sort of followed that path. But our perspective is that we've been fairly totally consistent on absolutely if it's to the detriment to the safety of the university will weigh in and take the concern to heart. And I don't think we've wavered on that. We certainly up front when the pipeline was being, going through the initial stages, we made our concerns and objections known through formal processes. We remain in dialogue with the city of Burnaby. I know Tim's been active on the file and, looking at scenarios like earthquakes and what that may do with new tanks. And, all I can say is that, totally agree with you on the safety piece of the Trans Mountain pipeline. And, I think earlier indication around the divestment, we understand what fossil fuels do to the environment as well. So I don't know if there's a different way that we can amplify it, but maybe what I can do is ask Mark, first of all, to explain what we have done to date. And then, if you do have a perspective on how we can amplify or say what we want, get the message out loud, we're happy to hear that as well. So Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about what we have done and some of the conversations that are ongoing at the moment?
Sure, thanks, Martin. So just to preface this, I moved into university at the start of the summer. So this issue we're talking about is in my backyard or my front yard, depending on which view you've got. So I'm very attuned to this. When I started the university a little over 5 years ago, Martin had me reading the Trans Mountain file 2 weeks before I even started work. So this is the number one issue on your desk. So we've consistently made statements opposing anything that increases the risk of harm to the university community, starting in 2015 and going right up into this year. We've pulled every lever imaginable, talking to Trans Mountain, talking to the federal government, which regulates this, the provincial government, the city of Burnaby, the local MPs. We continue to have those conversations. As Martin says, we continue to have the conversation with the city around emergency management on the mountain. So I think everybody's aware that there is a planned fire hall. The final site selection is not formally approved by the city, I don't think at this date, but no big surprise. It's going to be at the base of, I believe the proposed location is the base of Tower Road and the South Perimeter Road, just by Discovery 1. We're talking to the city about establishing a temporary fire hall on the mountain while the new one is under construction. We're also talking to the city about potential new routes for emergency vehicle access onto the mountain. So there's a variety of things going on, and let me just share a link with you that summarizes a lot of this, of what the university's been doing. So there's a mention earlier, I think Jaden, you had mentioned about forest fire. We have that concern. So I think it was almost 2 years ago we commissioned an independent review of the state of the forest on our lands and what the fire risk is. And fortunately, it's a temperate rainforest. The risk is low, but we all know the climate has changed and that risk will escalate. We've shared this report with the city. They're well aware of it. I don't know if they're doing their own review of their own forested lands, but they wouldn't be much different than ours. So we're aware of that. We're looking at what more we can do to mitigate the risk of a wildland fire on our property. We've educated the community as best we can about the risk and about emergency planning. That's always a challenge in any of our safety and emergency messaging. Is it largely falls on deaf ears. I think a great example is last week was the annual earthquake preparedness drill across all of our campuses. And I'm amazed at how many people didn't participate or weren't even aware it was happening. So we continue to be challenged with how we communicate the risk and how we communicate our emergency plans. So if you've got ideas that we haven't used, I'm all ears, and I'll turn it over to you. Any questions?
Thanks, Mark. Questions, comments, Tim? Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to dominate here. So if any of the students have something before I respond. Same.
I think, yeah, just about Trans Mountain, I think it would make a difference if the university was to tell the truth without any euphemisms involved. And that involves, again, it's quite simple, using the word death, that this involves people dying at the university, people being burned alive, and all of those things. And obviously, it's like, it has the risk of causing a panic at the university, but I think we have an obligation to tell the community the truth about what the risks are without, I don't know, without sugarcoating it in any way.
Thank you. Just while I think of it too, there was the suggestion that we push Trans Mountain to release their safety plan for the expanded tank farm. The National Energy Board approval process said, wrote that the tank farm or Trans Mountain have to release their new updated safety plan for the expanded tank farm 6 months before it becomes operational. And that's what Trans Mountain is committed to do. And if you want to lobby them to increase the pace of release of that report, please go ahead. Their current report is on their website. It's a little hard to find, but their current safety plan is reviewed and updated every year, and they share it publicly.
Just to, we'll do that, Mark, you can be sure. I don't know how many FOIAs we have out there burning up the bureaucracy, but in responding to Zane's point, it is very important for the university to make the linkage between Canada building 40 to 50 year fossil energy infrastructure underneath our university and climate death that we had this past summer in British Columbia. A fire hall is needed, certainly, and it's great that we're getting it, but prevention is much more effective than putting out fires after they've started. And we just have to reverse, we have to be very serious about reversing emissions. And that means being vocal, not just consistent, but being vocal about this particular piece of infrastructure going underneath our university and threatening our campus. So yes, we've been consistent since 2015 in our messaging. Last time Joy made a statement, it was absolutely buried. No one saw it. So it's not just about being consistent, it's about making these linkages and being vocal about it so that people have no mistake. I appreciate your frustration with the shakedown event and getting people to understand the climate emergency has been hard, but we are at a very good moment. And I would urge Joy, when she makes her statement about divestment, that she mention this big project that the nation should be absolutely cutting itself off from. This is a bad project at a bad time in a bad place, and we should talk about it.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think your voice has been consistent as well, Tim, so thank you. Other questions, comments?
I can tell you that as a staff person working here, I read the 2016 report that was commissioned, the safety report, and I was terrified, and especially with the dry summers that we've had. And the past summer was probably the coolest summer that we'll have moving forward. Our forests are rainforests. They're not meant for this kind of weather. Even in the Stanley Park area, you can see all of the brown trees there, and just worrying about how our trees will survive and how our forests will survive and what they will look like and how that could possibly go up in flames in an instant. And what would that mean, especially during the summer? What would that mean to me as an essential worker working up on the mountain? And I still have young kids at home. I still really want to make it home every day after work. And I've considered there's a shortage of family doctors, and I can find other places to work. And I have thought about that, just about the safety risks there. And then the last thing to consider also was the UN's most recent declaration as a right, an essential right for all humans to a healthy environment. And how does that all fit into this as well?
Yeah, no, definitely good comments. And I must admit, we looked at the forest fire risks and stuff like that, but with the drying climate, I mean, it's only going to get worse. There's no doubt about that. And it's a concern for sure. I no way want to understate the concern associated with it or the safety risks. Certainly we work to mitigate the risk, but that's there's risks to be mitigated for sure. And boy, it's a tough challenge. So let's acknowledge that. Other comments or questions? Tracy, do you want to have the opportunity to weigh in from a student perspective and some of the support and help or those types of things as well?
Sure, absolutely. I just want to say I heard about midterms, right? I heard about things that are happening. Dr. Thayer does a good job of understanding this impact it has on you as students. So I just want to make sure there's people here who could assist with academic concessions, anything that you might need. I'll put my email in the chat so you know how to reach me. And of course, Linda's here as well. And there is a supports team available that could help with you if you're having any challenges in the next, whenever, while you're a student and through this action. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Tracy. Is there other questions or comments that people want to make? Yeah, go ahead, Jaden. Sorry.
Yeah. Something that SFU 350 also, as you mentioned, that wanting to collaborate with their demands as well, that they just recently brought to the Board of Governors. Something that we have that aligns with what they're saying too in taking like tangible action to oppose a Trans Mountain expansion project can include investing in different resources to oppose the project, like starting media campaigns and educational programs. And this would go along with what Tim said about really amplifying your voice in how you oppose the project. It can also be just like, promoting anti-TMX actions that will mobilize the student body as one political union. And it can also include taking legal action against Trans Mountain as well. And something too that we can do as a collaborative unit between students and administrators, as well as like local Indigenous peoples, is write letters to the federal government about Trans Mountain in like a collaborative fashion, because amplifying our voices as one unit can have a lot more political influence than just one of our groups alone lobbying for those safety plans to be released, for example.
Thanks, Jaden. And certainly I think amplification around the safety message is something that we're interested in doing for sure. Gillian?
So yeah, I would like to to thank Jaden. I totally agree. If we want to fight this climate and ecological crisis, making communities and collaborations is key. So I believe the SFU administration should actually be more vocal, use their academic authority, also their professional authority, to create communities with other universities, with students, with indigenous peoples. And this is by making communities, by making a big group of people that we will manage to fight again, or at least reduce the consequences of the climate and ecological crisis. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, that one I think we can all agree on. Absolutely, working with other universities and other partners around the climate emergency. Absolutely. As I said, we want to be leaders in this this arena. I think we already are arenas. We've got lots of people following some of the stuff we're doing, especially on the investment piece. And you know, we want to continue to be leaders on not only responsible investing, but I know the overall sustainability mission of the university as well. And I know there is a process underway with the Board of Governors and a list of demands from SFU 350. And you know, I'm optimistic that we're going to respond favorably to the demands and some of the things that are in there. I think that, as I said, when we were approached by SFU 350, I think conceptually on a lot of them, we do agree. There is a climate emergency. We have to do something. We have to be leaders on it. And we're open to ideas and thoughts on that, for sure. Any other comments or thoughts? Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, I just had a very specific question for you, Martin. Would you ask Joy to make the linkage in the divestment statement today between the universities divesting and the demand for the federal government to stop construction of the Trans Mountain Pipeline?
I can certainly raise it, Tim. I won't promise that it will be messaged that way, of course.
I certainly understand that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Certainly the message this morning was about divestment, and we may be wandering a little bit off that. I do accept the point you're making, though, and I certainly will raise and ask that.
Thank you very much.
No promises.
I understand.
Comments? Anything else? Well, I guess what I'd like to say is, you know, first of all, thanks for taking the time and having the conversation with the university. I've learned some things, as I do with each of these conversations as we go through and hear the concerns. Hopefully you guys are leaving the call with some good news. Maybe not everything that you wanted in its entirety, but hopefully some good news on where the university is going. You know, and I think that, you know, as I look forward, the university does continue to respond, maybe not as fast or as people would like, or in the exact fashion that people would like, but certainly it is important to us and it's something we want to support. You know, thanks to Tracy and the student services team for putting a support in place for students. Student safety is certainly utmost on our list, and that's very much a concern of mine as well. So thanks for the time. Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the conversation. And I think people do have my email. I get emails from people and people reaching out all the time. So, you know, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. Read the announcement when it comes out this morning. Hopefully you can join us in celebrating the announcement and what it means to the university. It is another step forward. We've had many steps forward. This is one more that we've got moving forward. And I think it's certainly a proud announcement from the university. And hopefully it's one of many that will come in the future as well. So I think with that, is there any other last words that people would like to say? Or
I would just congratulate you on navigating, both you and Alison and whoever else has been involved in navigating that through. And we are extremely happy about that announcement, and that it comes at this moment before the COP meetings is hopefully going to send a message to the Prime Minister, who really needs to hear about how serious this is.
Thank you for that, Tim. Thanks. Thank you. So my last question and a bit of parting business is, does anybody have any idea what I do with this recording that I push the button on? Does it somehow save somewhere and I email it? after recording and I don't want it to disappear. I feel bad about that.
Martin,
There you
as soon as the meeting ends,
Yeah.
it'll actually save to your hard drive somewhere. So it depends where it's set up, but it'll save for you, but you have to end the meeting.
Okay, so I end the meeting and it automatically saves. Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you go and
Then
look.
Jen can help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you do have to find it. That's the other key thing.
Okay. Well, okay. So I'm taking your advice, and hopefully it works according to the plan here. So I'll end the meeting, and we'll find the recording, and we'll certainly direct it your way as well. If you do that. So thanks everybody for the time, and also appreciate the advocacy and the concerns. I think the university is very much aligned with the concerns that you're sharing today. So thank you for that. So thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir, for meeting with us.
Thanks.